Because the chaos at the border continues to get worse, and now we're getting personal stories of exactly how illegal immigration has been hurting families. A mother has just penned a letter to President Obama and pleading for him to wonder why, first of all, an illegal immigrant wasn't deported after being convicted of a crime. That illegal immigrant, in fact, killed her son. Raul Silva Corona was driving on the wrong side of the highway for 35 miles before smashing into her son, Brandon Mendoza,
who was a police officer in Arizona. The amazing part was that the illegal alien who did this, who also killed in the crash, by the way, had been arrested and convicted on felony charges years earlier. He didn't have a driver's license, he didn't have a Social Security card, and yet he was able to buy and register a car in the state of Arizona, which in the end resulted in the death of Marianne Mendoza's son. Here's Marianne Mendoza speaking directly to the President of the United States.
People who are coming here looking for jobs and who are wanting to make a difference in their life, I support them. I mean, this is what this country's made of. But when you start breaking the law, there's no reason to keep those people here. But I'm furious that the federal government allowed this criminal to stay in this country and kill my son.
This isn't the first time, of course. We have other stories of this happening across the country. And is it only going to get worse as this situation unfolds? We know what happened in Virginia, of course, when an illegal immigrant who had been arrested a couple of times was released and then ended up smashing, drunk driving, killing a Benedictine nun. She was killed and still not deported.
The question, in that situation, though, the government knew he was an illegal.
Absolutely.
They didn't deport him. His blood alcohol level when he killed her son was 0.24%. That is way over the legal limit. And they knew he was an illegal. Didn't deport him and didn't prosecute.
He drove 35 miles, as Clayton said, 35 miles the wrong way on a highway. Police were pursuing him. At one point, rammed his vehicle. He went right around the police car and wound up killing this cop in a head-on collision.
And now there are reports that the MS-13, which is one of the most violent drug gangs, is now going into these shelters where the illegals are staying down in Texas and in various places around the country and recruiting these illegal immigrants to sell drugs in their gangs.
And it's, of course, already, if you live in any city in America, you know that MS-13, which is originally a Salvadoran street gang, has become a major source of crime and disorder in American cities, comprised almost entirely of people who came here recently, in many cases illegally. We're also seeing the spread of diseases that have pretty much been wiped out in the United States. Things like drug-resistant tuberculosis. You just saw a case of bacterial pneumonia. A Border Patrol agent got it this week. The union says he's going to be disabled for life by this disease. He picked it up from one of these illegals in a detention center down in Texas.
Wow, not to mention the scabies. And then I read one article where lice, you could physically see lice walking down the faces of some of these kids.
Horrible. Meanwhile, the president earlier this week talking about photo opportunities that, you know, he says, I'm not into theater. That all of these situations where you can show up at different situations and you have cameras taking photos, that this isn't political theater to go down to the border and do this. And yet, of course, and later in the day, he had a bunch of photo opportunities here is a student who had written him a letter. Then he shows up to some barbecue joints and does some photo ops. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest says, you know, there is actually some good that can come out of photo ops after all. Listen.
When you prioritize photo ops ahead of solutions to actual problems, you're not really accomplishing very much. But when you are focused on problems and occasionally using photo ops to confront these problems, that's what real leadership is all about.
Spare me. This has been an entirely symbolic presidency for the past 3 years. If you listen to the White House, you would think the single biggest problem on planet Earth is that Hobby Lobby is not buying the pill for its employees. This is a photo op presidency, and for them to lecture us about the president's refusal to stand for a photo op, it's absurd, as some of the reporters in the room pointed out. And by the way, this is a really clear signal. The president's sending a signal. He's not going down to the border because fundamentally they approve of people coming here illegally because it adds to their voter base. More immigrants mean more Democratic voters, period. They're for it.
The president doesn't want to be standing there like Jay Johnson was yesterday, having a photo opportunity at the border saying, stay out of our country. We are going to send you back, as Jay Johnson did yesterday. We are going to deport you. That would send a clear message to Central America. But
people do not believe him.
Because it's not true. They're not going to deport him. Period.
Let us know your thoughts on that, friends at foxnews.com. Governor Huckabee will be joining us very shortly to talk about all of that and more. All right.